Big topics, big stories, and big news. The Big Rich Show. It happens here. Hey everyone, Big Rich here. If you like what we're doing and you want to help support us, please click on that subscribe button and be sure to click on the bell icon. That way you can be notified anytime we come out with a new show or video special. Thank you. There once was a man, Donald J. Trump, that was admired by a nation and adored by the world. He was a real estate tycoon. He was a vicious businessman. Often you would find his name in the headlines, and you always saw him on TV. Whether it was 20-something plus years ago on Oprah, where she asked, "Will you one day run for president?" And he laid out a plan on how he could fix the economy and the state of our country, or wrestling Vince McMahon in the WWE. You might have seen him fire somebody on The Apprentice, or heard his name dropped more than 300 times over the last 30 years by rappers from E40 to Scarface. He was the personification of wealth, luxury. He was a role model. He was seen as a hustler. He was a brand name. He had the bad haircut. He was the boss. He was the king of his own reality. Donald Trump. He was larger than life, and the world loved him. But this all changed in 2016 when he decided, as a man and business entrepreneur, not a politician, to run for president. And America spoke. But did it work? Did it separate or bring us together? Rappers like YG and Nipsey Hussle are putting out songs FDT. These same rappers were the ones who embraced Trump as some Machiavellian Monopoly man god. But now he is looked at as a racist, a cheat, and a fraud. And yet, through it all, this man has endured and stood tall. Even if you don't like him, you've got to admire the stamina and fortitude that he puts forth on a daily basis. Imagine yourself every day waking up to half of your friends trying to find a reason to bring you down. Think about that.
So-called allies are just ripping us off left and right with Japan and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. They're just ripping this country off. And I can tell you, if I ever was in office, which is unlikely because I don't think I want to be, but if I ever was, that would not happen.
The President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Sounds good.
Trump decided not to run then, citing issues with the Reform Party.
I'm not going to be running. The party is, as you know, self-destructing.
But just as likely, Trump's decision was motivated by uncertainty. At the time, Trump couldn't be sure that he would meet even the 15% threshold that he would need in order to make the fall debates.
I think the 15% is really trying to say that they don't want anybody trying to knock off the Democrats and the Republicans.
They don't want a spoiler candidate.
Excuse me, the people that set that rule were Democrats and Republicans.
Trump shall become a trumpet, says the Lord. No, you didn't hear me. Trump shall become a trumpet. Are you listening to me? I will raise up the Trump to become a
He's
trumpet.
not going to be the nominee, Chuck. I mean, as you know, I'm ahead in Ohio.
So, Jenny, could he actually win?
No freaking way!
He will be tempted to run, be predictably shellacked.
Do not tell me that Donald Trump is in this to win this, okay? He's a sideshow.
This is going to turn a three-ring circus into a freak show.
He's not running for president. He's running for Keep Me Famous.
I thought this was maybe some strategy for a new reality show.
How should Republicans handle Donald Trump?
Ignore him.
And Donald Trump is not going to be the nominee of this party.
Well, I don't think it's likely that Donald Trump will be the nominee.
Well, I do
based on your theme, believe that he's here to stay for a while, maybe through a few primaries, but he is not going to be the nominee.
Well, I'm going to support the Republican nominee, and I'm comfortable that it's not going to be Donald Trump.
There's not going to be a President Donald Trump. That's not going to happen.
Donald Trump will not become president.
He's not going to be president. Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
All right, all right.
I think if he becomes the president, he'll make it great because the states is already great.
I think that man will be president of the United States right about the time that spaceships come down filled with dinosaurs and red capes.
On that note, Tom,
Take it from me. How about that?
There is a man by the name of Mr. Clark, and there is also another man by the name of Donald. You are both watching me saying, could it be that God's speaking to me? Yes, he is. Somebody, just a few minutes before you came on the show, you went out and you took the American flag and you said, I'm proud of my nation. You raised it up and God said, you have been determined through your prayers to influence this nation. You're watching me, you're an influential person. The Spirit of God says, hear the word of the prophet to you as a king. I will open that door that you prayed about. And when it comes time for the election, you will be elected.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
So when you stand and deliver that State of the Union address, in no part of your mind or brain can you imagine Donald Trump standing up one day and delivering a State of the Union address?
Well, I can imagine it in a Saturday night skit. I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
He will never be president of the United States.
And we better be ready for the fact that he might be leading the Republican ticket next.
I know you don't believe that, but I want to go on to write it down.
Sorry to laugh.
Okay, here we are. And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones, right now, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is the here today, gone tomorrow candidate for President of the United States. Donald Trump is not going to be President of the United States. Ever respectful of the fact that the people have not voted, he's not going to be President of the United States.
Let's be clear. Donald Trump will lose the election.
I mean, he had a really good chance to be different and really have a chance to change things, but he doesn't do the work. He's lazy.
We talk about him every day, and we continuously bash him.
He's not going to be the president. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
This will be a wake-up call to the Republican Party. Despite Boris thinking that Donald Trump could win New York, like this, the presidential race is over.
Could I just cut through? I have one thing to say, one thing only, and that is that this race is over. Tomorrow morning, the money will dry up. The Republicans will start to hide. Trump has no place to go. This race, effectively, as of tonight, is no longer a presidential race. I mean, everything I know about presidential politics, and I've been through 5 of them, I've never seen one like this. This race is over. You might as well accept it. And the question now is, how do you minimize damage? And the only way you can do that, it seems to me, is to try to grab hold of some old conservative value things and do what Mondale did in '84, which is try to save a few people down ballot. But as far as Donald Trump's concerned, it will never, ever, ever happen.
President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump, at least I will go down as a president.
He will be a praying president, not a religious one. For I will fool the people, says the Lord. I will fool the people. Yes, I will. God says, the one that is chosen shall go in, and they shall say, he has hot blood. For the Spirit of God says, yes, he may have hot blood, but he will bring the walls of protection on this country in a greater way, and the economy of this country shall change rapidly, says the Lord of hosts. Listen to the word of the Lord. God says, I will put at your helm for 2 terms a president that will pray, but he will not be a praying president when he starts. I will put him in office, and then I will baptize him with the Holy Spirit and my power, says the Lord of hosts.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business. Complicated.
This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for, and I'm sorry that we did not win this election.
I love this country.
The shockwaves from Donald Trump's victory continue to be felt across America and around the world.
Donald Trump wird der 45.
Élu Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump.
Everyone was wrong. The backlash begins. Some magazines are facing big embarrassments today. Newsweek had already shipped out this cover, Madam Secretary, but quickly had to change it to this.
Just count the votes. It's ridiculous. Hillary, you're a lawyer. Walk in, go to the Supreme Court. I believe in you, Hillary. I've been to Rwanda. I've been to your hospital in Rwanda. I've seen all the good you've done. I believe in you. Women need you. Minorities need you. I need you. Chicago needs you. We all need you. This country needs you to stand up and walk into the Supreme Court and say 1 vote equals 1 vote. What's wrong with that? What's the debate?
You can definitely feel his passion. There's other people out here who feel the same way.
You're a homophobe. Look, the homosexuals coming here.
Your candidate take away my right.
Go ahead,
your candidate is going to take away my right to live.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
You get these incompetent assholes away.
Incompetent assholes. Most of Trump's voters are uneducated, just like.
Ignorance is bliss. Did you hear that? 1 vote equals 1 vote. Get in there, Hillary. You're a lawyer. Make something happen. Fix the election. This can't be. And then the other couple, screaming and crying and acting like babies, calling the other couple deplorable and uneducated? Yeah, this is the upside down world that we're dealt to live in. And it only continues.
God, I am literally shaking right now. Literally shaking right now. Oh my god, I'm literally shaking right now. I am literally shaking right now. Oh my god, I'm literally shaking. Oh my god, I'm literally shaking. Oh my god, literally shaking right now. Literally shaking right now. I'm literally shaking. I am. Oh my god, I am literally shaking now. Like, you have no idea, guys. I am literally crying. I literally.
Now President of the United States, President Obama.
What a great honor to be able to introduce for the first time ever anywhere the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald.
On the shoulder. You adjust the microphone as you told, man.
And for their gracious aid throughout
I am so sorry
They have been
to my world. I am so sorry to my world. This is not what we want.
We will face challenges.
There's so much potential
but we will get the job done.
for beauty and for
Every 4 years
devastation.
we gather
In this one moment, it's just almost incomprehensible that they can exist right now. So,
and we are grateful.
so close.
So close to what? Another politician? A lifetime scammer? How soon we forget. Her husband was being impeached. Why? Because of sexual misconduct in the White House. among many other things, the Clintons are tied to a lot of dirt. So, would she have been the better candidate? I don't know.
You say anything to get elected.
Well, actually, I have been very consistent over the course of my entire life. I have always fought for the same values and principles, but like most human beings, including those of us who run for office, I do absorb new information. I do look at what's happening in the world. Take the trade deal.
Oh, I think that everybody is in favor of free and fair trade, and I think that NAFTA is proving its worth.
I have been a critic of NAFTA from the very beginning.
By saying her rival's universal health care plan is wishful thinking.
People who have health emergencies can't wait for us to have some theoretical debate about some better idea that will never, ever come to pass.
I know that we can finish the job of universal health care coverage for every single man, woman, and child.
LGBT Americans are our colleagues, our teachers, our soldiers, our friends, our loved ones. And they are full and equal citizens and deserve the rights of citizenship. That includes marriage.
I believe that marriage is not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman.
Yes, I evolved over time, and I'm very proud to state that I'm a full supporter of marriage equality right now. Yes, I evolved over time, and I'm very proud to state that I'm a full supporter of marriage equality right now.
Do you think New York State should recognize gay marriage?
No.
No. Okay.
All right, so here I go. Here I'm going to ask you a question, and first of all, I should preface this. I don't know if you know this, but I am gay. What?
I get accused of being kind of moderate and center. I plead guilty.
I take a backseat to no one when you look at my record and standing up and fighting for progressive values.
For the record, are you a progressive or are you a moderate?
I'm a progressive, but I'm a progressive who likes to get things done.
All my grandparents, came over here, and
Turns out only one was an immigrant, 3 were not.
The server contains personal communications from my husband and me. The server will remain private.
Only time I got on the internet, I did 2 emails. Otherwise, I didn't want.
So it is with conviction that I support this resolution as being in the best interests of our nation. I've made it very clear that I made a mistake.
dependent on dirty oil from the Gulf or dependent on dirty oil from Canada.
I think it is imperative that we look at the Keystone Pipeline as what I believe it is, a distraction from the important work we have to do to combat climate change, and unfortunately, from my perspective, one that interferes with our ability to move forward to deal with all the other issues. Therefore, I oppose it.
Toward finalizing a far-reaching new trade agreement called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The so-called TPP will lower barriers, raise standards, and drive long-term growth across the region. Now looking back on it, it doesn't have the results we thought it would have in terms of access to the markets, more exports, etc.
In favor of allowing the Keystone XL pipeline.
Well, this is President Obama's decision, and I am not going to second guess him because I was in a position to set this in motion, and I do not think that would be the right thing to do. So I want to wait and see what he and Secretary Kerry decide. If it's undecided when I become president, I will answer your question.
Any vote that might lead to war should be hard, but I cast it with conviction.
Look, I know that there have been a lot of questions about Iraq posed to candidates over the last weeks. I've made it very clear that I made a mistake, plain and simple.
Your husband received $800,000 for 4 speaking engagements, ostensibly in support of the trade deal, or by a group that supports the trade deal. You've given your own money to your campaign. Is that a conflict of interest? Is that a conflict of interest?
I mean, and how many angels dance on the head of a pin? I have I have really nothing to, I mean, how do you answer that?
When asked whether she supports a proposal by the New York State governor to issue driver's licenses to illegal immigrants,
I certainly recognize why Governor Spitzer is trying to do it.
first she said this.
It makes a lot of sense. What is the governor supposed to do?
5 seconds later, this.
Do I think this is the best thing for any governor to do? No.
Unless I missed something, Senator Clinton said 2 different things in the course of about 2 minutes.
I can't tell whether she was for it or against it.
We're landing under sniper fire. There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles to get to our base.
But those of us on that trip recall it differently. Instead of running for cover, Clinton was greeted by a schoolgirl who read her a poem of welcome. Accompanying the First Lady, Chelsea Clinton, singer Sheryl Crow, and comedian Sinbad to entertain the...
I represented Wall Street as a senator from New York.
You are not for Glass-Steagall. You are not for putting a firewall between this speculative, risky, shadow banking behavior. I am, and the people of our country need a president who's on their side, willing to protect the Main Street economy from recklessness on Wall Street.
Speeches for Goldman Sachs. You were paid $675,000 for 3 speeches. Was that a mistake? I mean, was that a bad error in judgment?
Look, I made speeches to lots of groups. I told them what I thought. I answered questions.
But did you have to be paid $675,000?
Well, I don't know. That's what they offered.
So we can make our education system work for every one of our children.
New York has spent a considerable amount of money and effort devising very good tests.
I will end the unfunded mandate known as No Child Left Behind. I do not believe that our children are little test takers. And I do not believe that our teachers should be nothing but test givers.
I don't think she should be getting paid that much, honestly. You're already a wealthy person. Why do you need more?
Higher education shouldn't be a privilege for those able to afford it. It should be an opportunity widely available for anyone with the talent, determination, and ambition to learn.
I see a president that shall come, and this is not to speak bad about this one. There is a president who will come. And God says he will have absolutely no fear. Absolutely no fear. Will be decisive, make decisions. And then in the middle of the restoration of America, rapidly because of a source of energy that shall come quickly. And because of medical breakthroughs, and because of agreements between nations, specifically China. God said they shall say, we never dreamed this would happen. Where they shall say, Christ will reign, and this we shall not implement at all socialism. Where they have said, we will make history without God. No, you will not. No, you will not, says the Lord. For they are saying, how do we kill the giant? How do we kill the giant of death? How do we kill the giant of socialism? How do we kill the giant of human secularism? I have placed that man amongst you. Take all these little remarks I'm giving you. They are gems. The name and the word gold. And God says, these that shall reject him shall be shocked at how he takes the giant down.
Peanuts, get your peanuts here.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
That's up to him. What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions. She's shocked that I picked her. It's like in a state of shock.
I'm not thinking of
That's okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hillary accidentally bumped into me, and she very civilly said, "Pardon me."
Mr. President, should Jeff Sessions resign?
You know what?
That's
I
not
think
an
you
invasion.
should, honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN, and if you did it well, your ratings
Let
would
me
be
ask, much if
better.
I may
Okay,
ask
that's
one other
enough.
question, Mr. President, if I may ask
Peter,
one
go
other
ahead.
question. Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question?
Go ahead.
No, Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
since you are attacking
No,
our news
not you.
organization,
Not
can
you.
you give us a chance?
Your organization's
You are
terrible.
attacking our news organization.
Your organization's
Can you give us a
terrible.
chance
Let's
to
go.
ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can
Quiet,
you state,
quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you
She's
state
asking a
categorically-
question.
Mr.
Don't be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you
No, I'm
give
not
us a
going to give you a
question?
question. I'm not going to give you a
Can you
question.
state
You are
categorically-
fake news.
Sir,
Go ahead.
can you state...
La France salue avec respect et gravité les morts des autres nations.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only
has
Rosie
several-
O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account...
You know, last night I called Hillary a nasty woman. But this stuff is all relative. After listening to Hillary rattle on and on and on, I don't think so badly of Rosie O'Donnell anymore. In fact, I'm actually starting to like Rosie a lot.
You in the center, why don't you turn your camera? Show them how many people come to these rallies. Turn them, go ahead, turn them.
This sleazy guy right over here from ABC, he's a sleaze in my book.
If you
Let's
don't
go.
mind,
Let's
Mr.
go.
President,
Come on.
that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr.
I
President...
consider it to be an
as you
invasion.
know,
You and I have a difference of
But
opinion.
do you,
It's
if,
better.
if I may
Okay,
ask
that's
one other
enough.
question, Mr. President, I was
That's
going
enough.
to ask one of the other folks.
That's
have had,
enough.
Pardon me, ma'am.
Are you a friendly reporter? Watch how friendly he is. Wait. Watch how friendly he is. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, not you. Not you. Your organization's terrible. Your organization's terrible. Let's go. Go ahead. Quiet. Go ahead. She's asking a question. Don't be rude. Don't be rude. Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question. You are fake news.
I think you've set a new bar today for being contentious with the press corps, kind of calling us losers to our faces and all that.
No, not all of you, just many of you.
All right, fine.
Let them talk. Crust first.
Here we are.
Well, we've got to talk
Back to
about that.
the negative.
Back to the negative.
Back to the. You know what? Do this interview with somebody else.
Well, we talked about this yesterday on the phone. This is exactly what we talked
Do
about.
the interview with somebody else. Really. You don't need this. Do it with somebody else and have a good time. Because frankly, you're a very negative guy, and I think it's very unfair reporting. Good luck.
I also want to speak to you without the filter of the fake news, which has published one false story after another with no sources. Even though they pretend they have them, they make them up in many cases. I find the political press to be unbelievably dishonest.
And you keep calling us the dishonest press. It seems as though you're resistant to scrutiny, the kind of scrutiny that comes with running for president of the United States.
I like scrutiny, but you know what? When
You're raising money for
excuse
veterans.
me, Excuse me. I've watched you on television. You're a real beauty.
In fact, Thomas Jefferson said, "Nothing can be believed which is seen in a newspaper. Truth itself," he said, "becomes suspicious by being put into that polluted vehicle." That was June 14th, my birthday, 1807.
Research, which is independent, says...
Don't be naive. You're a very naive person.
The Pew Research says that there are, for immigrants on the whole,
Come on, try getting it out. Try getting it out.
I'll get it out.
I mean, I don't know if you're going to put this on television, but you don't even know what you're talking about. Try getting it out. Go ahead.
That's
enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter, go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts.
Well, I'm not a big fan of yours.
The world laughs at us. They won't be laughing if I'm president.
If I decide to run, and that's a big decision for me, including the fact, frankly, that I would have to give up one of the most successful shows on television, which is a lot of money and a lot of prestige.
Watch. I said 20,000. Look not to Wall Street, however, observe. And they shall say, what is your plan for this giant? And he will take a simple stone. Remember the name. And he will hold it up and they will laugh at him. But the plan is so brilliant, says the Lord. It could only have been given by me. Lord, I pray today with your people. I call to you, Lord, because you have shown me New York. You've shown me New York. You've shown me, Lord, how the enemy has once again planned something, but this time it is completely different. It is not like 9/11. There is nothing like it. This is the most strange infiltration that shall come upon your screens. It shall come upon you in your movie houses. It shall come upon the places of comfort and pleasure. And they shall infiltrate, and they shall say, we'll even black them out. We will even cause them to be so terrorized because there is darkness in one section and darkness in another.
Possibly something like this that could touch everyone around the world.
Section. Canada, keep your shield in front of you. Do not let it down. For they are focusing on you. The Spirit of God says one more thing I want to talk to you about. That little dwarf in North Korea. I'm getting a little tired of him. I think I'm going to go and pay him a visit, says the Lord. You watch and see what I do.
Come on, come on.
And that will be a big sign that the man that I'm sending with a stone for the giant is emerging, says the Lord. Prophesy and shout it out. Prophesy and shout it out. They will shout, impeach, impeach. But this shall not happen. And then God says, highly embarrassing moments when another Snowden arises. and people will become very
If he takes the risk of going to trial and he's convicted, that could be seen as an impeachable offense.
I don't see how that wouldn't be an impeachable offense.
An official impeachment inquiry of
Impeachment inquiry. Impeachment and impeachment.
impeachment, the House impeachment.
Impeachment inquiry.
Impeachment, article of impeachment. He doesn't understand the gravity of the impeachment.
Impeachment war.
The impeachment.
New developments on the impeachment inquiry.
Impeachment.
An impeachable.
Impeachable of impeachment.
Impeachment will be on the Democrats' agenda.
Impeachment.
We're introducing articles of impeachment.
Impeachment.
We're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them. Impeach this president. The I word, impeachment.
The I word, impeachment.
The I word, impeachment. The I word, and impeachment.
Let's take a look at the process of impeachment. Impeachment to impeach, or impeachment, he would have been impeached. All of it bringing impeachment back to the forefront.
All of that may be impeachable.
That's an impeachable offense.
Is that an impeachable offense?
Is that an impeachable offense to you?
He's much more vulnerable to impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachable.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Articles of impeachment.
There should be an impeachment inquiry.
By their compliant friends, the DNC stenographers, the conspiracy theorists, liars known as the media mob, they echoed all of this hysteria on television. Follow the timeline here. Watch this. You may want to run your DVR. Starting 2 days after Election Day. This is what brought us to this point. Take a look.
If he takes the risk of going to trial and he's convicted, that could be seen as an impeachable offense.
If Trump were caught on a video camera snorting cocaine in the White House, maybe with one of his children, there was at least a chance he'd be impeached.
If he's not a legitimately elected president in your mind, there are tools that Congress has.
I don't see how that wouldn't be an impeachable offense.
That tweet fits the Republican definition of an impeachable offense.
I will fight every day until he is impeached. Impeach 45. Impeach 45.
Grounds for impeachment. It's an impeachable offense.
Perhaps impeachable offense. Is impeachment the appropriate remedy? Something for the Congress like impeachment.
All of that may be impeachable.
That's an impeachable offense.
Is that an impeachable offense? Is that an impeachable offense to you? He's much more vulnerable to impeachment.
A potential ingredient of impeachment.
Where do you see an impeachable offense?
It is grounds for impeachment.
Potentially criminal or even impeachable. Grounds for impeachment, or does that not go far enough in your view?
Grounds for impeachment. This tweet alone may be an impeachable offense.
So let's talk about impeachment.
Impeachment is on the table.
Which impeachable offense?
Bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't. Because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them.
Do you see an impeachable set of offenses?
It's an impeachable offense.
If that's not impeachable, I don't know what is.
The president shall be removed from office on impeachment.
Is it impeachable?
100% is impeachable.
Very substantial evidence that the president is guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors.
Grounds for impeachment.
Tipping point, talk of impeachment reaches a fever pitch on Capitol Hill.
Before the call between President Trump and President Zelensky on July 25th, before the Mueller hearing in front of this committee on July 24th, before all that, 16 of them had already voted to move forward on impeachment. 16 Democrats on the Judiciary Committee had already voted to move forward on impeachment, yet today we're talking about whether the positions they've already taken are constitutional. Seems a little backward to me. I mean, we can't get agreement. I mean, we got four Democrats or 4 people who voted for Clinton, and they can't agree. Yet today we're talking about the Constitution. Now, Professor Turley, you've been great today, but I think you were wrong on one thing. You said this is a fast impeachment. I would argue it's not a fast impeachment, it's a predetermined impeachment. Predetermined impeachment done in the most unfair partisan fashion we have ever seen. No subpoena power for Republicans. Depositions done in secret, in the bunker, in the basement of the Capitol. 17 people come in for those depositions. No one can be in there except a handful of folks that Adam Schiff allowed in those depositions. Chairman Schiff prevented witnesses from answering Republican questions. Every Democrat question got answered. Not every Republican question. Democrats denied Republicans the witnesses we wanted in the open hearings that took place 3 weeks ago. And of course, Democrats promised us the whistleblower would testify and then change their mind. And they changed their mind. Why? Because the whole world discovered that Adam Schiff's staff had talked to the whistleblower, coordinated with the whistleblower with no firsthand knowledge, bias against the president, who worked with Joe Biden, whose lawyer in January of 17 said the impeachment process starts then. That's the unfair process we've been through. And the reason it's been unfair, let me just cut to the chase. The reason it's been unfair is because the facts aren't on their side. The facts are on the president's side. 4 key facts: will not change, have not changed, will never change. We have the transcript. There was no quid pro quo in the transcript. The 2 guys on the call, President Trump and President Zelensky, both said no pressure, no pushing, no quid pro quo. The Ukrainians, third, didn't know that the aid was held up at the time of the phone call. And fourth, and most important, the Ukrainians never started, never promised to start, and never announced an investigation in the time that the aid was paused. Never once. But you know what did happen in those 55 days that the aid was paused? There were 5 key meetings between President Zelensky and senior officials in our government. 5 key meetings. We had the call on July 25th. The very next day, July 26th, we had Ambassador Volker, Taylor, and Sondland meet with President Zelensky in Kyiv. We then had Ambassador Bolton, end of August, meet with President Zelensky. We then had the Vice President meet with President Zelensky on September 1st, and we had 2 senators, Republican and, more importantly, Democrat Senator Murphy with Republican Senator Johnson meet with President Zelensky on September 5th. None of those 5 meetings was aid ever discussed in exchange for an announcement of an investigation into anybody. Not one of them. And you would think the last 2, after the Ukrainians did know the aid was being held, you would think it would come up then. Particularly the one where you got Senator Murphy, the Democrat, there talking about it. Never came up. The facts are on the president's side. But we got an unfair process because they don't have the facts. We got an unfair process, most importantly. And this gets to something else you said, Mr. Turley. And this is scary. How mad the country, I mean, that was so well said. This is scary. The Democrats have never accepted the will of the American people. To Mr. Turley's point, 17 days ago, the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives called the President of the United States an imposter. The guy 63 million Americans voted for, who won an electoral college landslide, the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives called that individual an imposter. That is not healthy for our country. This is not healthy. The facts are the facts. They are on the president's side. That's what we need to focus on, not some constitutional hearing at the end of the process when you guys have already determined where you're going to go. With that, I yield back.
Mr. Turner. Right, I just want to echo that sentiment and certainly lament the attacks that have been levied against our colleague Lee Stefanik on this panel, which have been vile and hateful. For those of you keeping score at home, the effort to accuse our president of coercion, extortion, or bribery with these witnesses as we now come to the closing session of this basically break down as follows. We have Cant and Ambassador Taylor, who spoke of hearsay. Their hearsay of these matters that they said that they had heard were all statements that they'd heard from others who have also testified in front of us. So there's no one that's missing. There's no one out there. Cant and Taylor basically said that they'd heard it from Morrison and Sondland. Morrison indicated he'd heard it from Sondland. Sondland testified yesterday he'd heard it from no one on the planet. Vindeman and Morrison both have direct testimony of the phone call with the President of the United States. Beyond that, they only had contact with Sondland, and again, Sondland indicated he had contact with no one on the planet. Volker testified that he did have direct contact both with the Ukrainians and with the President of the United States, and indicated that the President of the United States did not condition either a phone call, a meeting, or aid upon Ukraine undertaking investigations, and also testified that the Ukrainians did not believe that either. We also have the direct statements from the President of Ukraine and the Foreign Minister that they did not feel any pressure to undertake investigations, and we also have the evidence that we're all very much aware of, which is they did not undertake any investigations. We also have Yovanovitch and Dr. Hill. Yovanovitch obviously left before the time period. Dr. Hill, we appreciate your being with us today, and Mr. Holmes. Dr. Hill, you have provided me probably the greatest piece of evidence that's before us to illustrate the problem with hearsay. So you said, based on questions and statements, I have heard some of you on this committee, that'd be us, appear to believe that Russia and its security services did not conduct a campaign against our country. And perhaps somehow, for some reason, it was Ukraine. So this is, it was held up by Devin Nunes, is the report on Russian active measures that was voted on by all of us. It begins with this sentence. In 2015, Russia began engaging in a covert influence campaign aimed at the U.S. presidential election. Every one of us, a little small, like, effort on your part, Dr. Hill, and you would have known that what you just said was not true, what you had heard, but you felt the need to put it in your 8-page statement before you went on to tell us a bunch of other things that you heard about other people, no matter how convinced you were of, also which were not necessarily true. One of which was that you said that Ambassador Sondland met with Giuliani. Actually, Ambassador Sondland testified here that he had not, as ambassador, met with Giuliani. He'd briefly met him in his lifetime by shaking his hand, and Giuliani issued a statement that they had never met either. This is the problem with, no matter how convinced we are, Dr. Hill, no matter how much we believe we know that what we've heard is true, it is still just what we've heard. But so far in this hearing, in this series of hearings, the only thing that we have is Volker saying, I spoke to the president and I've spoke to the Ukrainians, neither of which believed that aid was conditioned, neither of which believed that the president was requiring it, and Ambassador Sondland, which said no one on the planet told him that that was the case. That's the sole evidence. Now, I got to tell you, the one thing that's interesting is Ambassador Sondland did say it's his belief that a meeting with the president was conditioned upon investigations. Ambassador Volker, who I think is a man of very significant integrity, said that that was not the case. Now, even if Ambassador Sondland is correct that somebody, and Dr. Hill, you testified, and again, it's hearsay, you don't know, that supposedly Mulvaney told him that, because he didn't testify to that. But let's say somebody beside the president told him that. You guys want to be the laughingstock of history to impeach a president of the United States because he didn't take a meeting? Oh, please, dear God. Please undertake that. Now, Mr. Holmes, I got to tell you, you say that you're there.
Is there a question for Dr. Hill?
Mr. Holmes, in your testimony, you said that Sondland said he loves your ass, and also said he'll do anything that you want. Mr. Holmes, that information had nothing whatsoever to do with the subject matter of any of these hearings. It was anecdotal. It was extraneous. Your statements that your interests are protecting Ukraine are very dubious when you embarrass President Zelensky by making those statements that you didn't have to make. Who cares that Ambassador Sondland said that? And you know you didn't embarrass Ambassador Sondland, you embarrassed Zelensky, because you know he got asked this question in his own country, and people are hearing that statement as if it's true.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
It's totally dubious of you to do that.
Mr. Carson, you are recognized.
I yield back.
Get to answer.
Thank you, Chairman.
This is a Fox News special report. Special coverage of Robert Mueller, the special counsel, his findings being released by the Attorney General William Barr to Congress. We're expecting at least a few pages of those top-line findings. I'm Ed Henry in New York with Dana Perino.
And I'm going to pause you there because Jake Gibson, who's our producer at the Justice Department, I believe we have him on the phone. And Jake, are you there?
I am here. So the report, the letter just came out, the Barr letter to Congress. It is 4 pages. I'm going to read it to you if that's okay. So, dear Chairman Graham, Nadler, Ranking Member Feinstein, and Ranking Member Collins. As a supplement to the notification provided on Friday, March 22nd, I am writing to you today to advise you of the principal conclusions reached by Special Counsel Robert Mueller and to inform you about the status of my initial review of the report he has prepared. The next section is titled The Special Counsel's Report. On Friday, the Special Counsel submitted to me a, quote, confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions he has reached. This report is entitled Report on the Investigation into Russian Interference in the 2016 Presidential Election, unquote. Although my review is ongoing, I believe that it is in the public interest to describe the report and to summarize the principal conclusions reached by Special Counsel and the results of his investigation. The report explains that the Special Counsel and his staff thoroughly investigated allegations that members of the presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump and others associated with it conspired with the Russian government in its efforts to interfere in the 2016 U.S. presidential election, or sought to obstruct the federal investigations. In the report, the Special Counsel noted that in completing his investigation, he employed 19 lawyers who were assisted by a team of approximately 40 FBI agents, intelligence analysts, forensic accountants, and other professional staff. The Special Counsel issued more than 2,800 subpoenas, executed nearly 500 search warrants, obtained more than 230 orders for communication records, issued almost 50 orders authorizing use of pen registers, which is tapping someone's phone, getting their phone numbers, made 13 requests to foreign governments for evidence, and interviewed approximately 500 witnesses. The Special Counsels obtained a number of indictments and convictions of individuals and entities in connection with his investigation, all of which have been publicly disclosed. During the course of the investigation, Special Counsel also referred several matters to other offices for further action. The report does not recommend any further indictments, nor did the Special Counsel obtain any sealed indictments that have yet to be made public. That is key. Below, I summarize the principal conclusions set out in the Special Counsel's report. The next section is titled Russian Interference in the 2016 Presidential Election. The Special Counsel's report is divided into two parts. The first describes the results of the Special Counsel's investigation into Russia's interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. The report outlines the Russian effort to influence the election and documentation crimes committed by persons associated with the Russian government in connection with those efforts. The report further explains that a primary consideration for the Special Counsel's investigation was whether any Americans, including individuals associated with the Trump campaign, join the Russian conspiracies to influence the election, which would be a federal crime. The Special Counsel's investigation did not find that Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with Russia in its efforts to influence the 2016 presidential election. I'm going to read that part again. The Special Counsel's investigation did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with Russia in its efforts to influence the 2016 U.S. presidential election. As the report states, the investigation did not, quote, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. That is a quote from the Mueller report. The investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities.
The president can't win next year if he's impeached. The focus group impeachment takes words and then takes them to people and say, how can we explain this better? Because we don't have the facts to match it. A focus group impeachment says, you know, we really aren't working with good facts, but we need a good PR move. That's why we're here today. This is all about, as I said last week, a clock and a calendar. And it really became evident to me that this was true because last Wednesday, after we had a long day of hearing here, the next morning, before anything else could get started, the Speaker of the House walked up to the podium and said, go write articles of impeachment. She just quit. She just stopped. Go write articles of impeachment. I appreciate that the majority practiced for 2 days this weekend on this hearing. I appreciate that the fact that you got to try and get it right to try and convince the American people of your problem, but your speaker's already undercut you. She took the thrill out of the room. You're writing articles of impeachment. Why couldn't we just save that time today? And if you're going to write the articles of impeachment, go ahead and write them. Well, there's probably a reason for that. Because the chairman laid out some amazing claims. none of which I think after this hearing today, the American people can honestly look at and see that there is overwhelming evidence, there is a proper reason he abused this power, because as the Speaker, another statement she said, that to do impeachment you have to be so compelling and overwhelming and bipartisan, all of which we are not. So why not? Why aren't we here? Well, I think we can do this. Let's look at the three things that typically are associated with making your case for a crime. Let's do it against what the majority has said. I think they have motive, they have means, and they have opportunity. What's their motive? It's November 2020. It's been said over and over and over again. The chairman said it again this morning. It's been said all along that we have to do this because if we don't impeach him, he'll win again next year. The reason is shown as clearly as last week on the jobs report in the economy. And as I had a man come up to me in the grocery store this weekend, he said, keep doing what you're doing. He said, I've never seen an economy this good. He said, people are working, people are being taken care of, and this is just a fatal distraction on a president that they don't like. Motive is easy. November 2016, they lost. January 2017, just a few minutes in, the Washington Post confirmed what every Democrat had been talking about. Now's the time for impeachment. We see tweet after tweet saying, now let's get at it. It's amazing that they start with impeachment and then they've spent 2 years trying to figure out what do we impeach him on? Well, the means became what we see now. The means is to always talk about impeachment, to always say this president's doing something wrong, to say he is illegitimate, as the chairman has said before, that he's not even a legitimate president. It's to constantly tear down at a president who is working on behalf of the American people. The sham impeachment, when we go through this, I think the chairman said something that was interesting. He said that a president should not be above the law and should be held accountable for the oath of their office. I think Congress ought to be held accountable for their oath of office as well, and not to do what we're doing right now, and that is run a process that doesn't fit fairness or decorum, to run a process and a fact pattern that you're having to force against a president you don't like. But what was the opportunity? The opportunity came last November when they got the majority and they began their impeachment run. They began in the process, even as selecting the chairman said that I would be the best person for impeachment. This is November of last year. Before we had any hearings, before we had even were sworn in to this Congress. For anyone, the media or watching on TV or watching in this room, for anyone to think that this was not a baked deal is not being honest with themselves. You see, presumption has now become the standard instead of proof. It should cause anyone to begin to question, because the entire case is built on a presumption, or as we found out last week from 3 scholars, that inference is okay. If you just infer that that's what they mean, then we'll take that. That was an interesting line. You know, it was interesting. They made their whole case built on Gordon Sondland. You're going to see that a lot today. He testified that he presumed that the aid was connected to an investigation, but he said nobody ever told him that. When Sondland even asked the president directly, he said, what do you want? The president said, I want nothing. I want Zelensky to do what he ran on. Ukraine did nothing and got the aid anyway. But you know how I know that this is also a problematic experience? Just look over the past 3 weeks. When the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, who, by the way, is absent today, I guess he can't back up his own report, but he started his own hearing by making up the factual call. When he made it up, he started the fairy tale that we're having today. If you can't even put the transcript in the right context, just read it. Chairman Schiff couldn't even read the transcript. He had to make it up, because if he didn't make it up, it didn't sound as bad. It didn't sound as bad. He said, listen, he said, let's make up some dirt. That's not what was said. The transcript, the chairman misled the American people. As an attorney, as a chairman, as a member of Congress who swore an oath to tell basically to be honest with the American people and to uphold the Constitution, that was such a massive malpractice I've never seen. Because you know why? Again, they don't care about what actually was in the transcript. They don't actually care what happened. And we heard last week from witnesses, they don't even care that the aid was released. They're simply looking at the facts to make it fit their narrative. But what else happened? You know, this is also the Chairman Schiff who also said that he had seen collusion in plain sight, that it was already there before the Mueller report ever came out, that all of this was going to happen. But you know, I guess maybe I might need to just not stop commenting on Chairman Schiff and his guidance, because I may end up on the next phone records subpoena as we go forward. You see, we've taken a dangerous turn in this Congress. Subpoenas are fine, properly done, and should be done properly, but they should never be at the expense of a political vendetta. Professor Turley testified last week, presumption is no substitute for proof. The current legal case for impeachment is not just woefully inadequate, but in some respects dangerous and the basis for impeachment of an American president. Today, what we were supposed to get was like I love my friends on the majority of this committee said Mueller. When we got the Mueller report, it didn't go real well. So we had a lot of hearings, didn't go real well. Then we finally got Bob Mueller, and they said this is going to be the movie version. In fact, what happened, they did, my colleagues on the majority had live readings from Capitol Hill. They made dramatic podcasts. They even wrote a comic book rendition that breathed life into the Mueller report, and it didn't work. So they brought Bob Mueller. This was the movie version. They told us Robert Mueller's testimony would be the thing that people watched and would be convinced. Guess what? They wasn't convinced. In fact, it fell flat. But you know, today, I guess, is the movie version of the Schiff report. Except one thing, the star witness failed to show up. Mr. Nunez is here. His staff is here. The leading headline is there, Schiff report. But where's Mr. Schiff? And Mueller, Robert Mueller testified. The Ken Starr report, Ken Starr testified. The author of the Schiff report is not here. Instead, he's sending his staff to do his job for him. I guess that's what you get when you're making up impeachment as you go. So as we look forward here, there's going to be plenty of time to discuss the factual case for this and the statements that are not been made. What is very detrimental to me, though, is this. This committee is not hearing from a factual witness. This committee is not doing anything past hearing from law school professors and staff. We've not been given, the chairman said something about the president not being able to come. Show me where he would actually have a proper process in this that's not talking to staff and not talking to law school professors, when we could actually have witnesses that will be called by both sides. But I want to say this in ending. I love this institution. I was here as a 19-year-old kid, as an intern, almost 32 years ago. This institution, as we see it today, is in danger. We see chairmen who are issuing subpoenas for personal vendettas. We see committees, such as the Judiciary Committee, that has held many, many substantive hearings, has been the very center point of impeachment, being used as a rubber stamp because we get not our marching orders from this committee and what it should be doing, but from the Speaker and the Intelligence Committee chairman. We're not able to do what we need to do because we're a rubber stamp. I love this institution, but in the last 3 days, over the last 3 or 4 days, I've seen stuff that just bother me to no end and should bother everyone. The Speaker of the House, after hearing 1 day of testimony in the Judiciary Committee, said go write articles. Facts be damned. Al Green, another member of the House majority, said we can keep impeaching him over and over and over and over again. Adam Schiff, when he told us he wasn't going to come, instead hide behind his staff, he also told us that we're going to keep investigating because they know this is going nowhere in the Senate, and they're desperate to have an impeachment vote on this president. The economy is good, job creation is up, military is strong, our country is safe. And the Judiciary Committee has been relegated to this. Why? Because they have the means, they have the motive, and they have the opportunity. And at the end of the day, all this is about a clock and a calendar, because they can't get over the fact Donald Trump is president of the United States and they don't have a candidate that they think can beat him. It's all political. And as we have talked about before, this is a show. Unfortunately, today, the witness who is supposed to be the star witness chose to take a pass and let a staff answer for him. With that, I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of order.
The gentleman will state his point of order.
Mr. Chairman, Clause 2J1 of Rule 11 requires you to schedule a minority hearing day, not to consider it, not to meet to discuss it, but to schedule one, and to schedule it at a reasonable time, not after articles have been drawn, not after there's been a vote on articles of impeachment. I inquire and insist, Mr. Chairman, that you immediately schedule a minority hearing day, or tell us why you are...
Sir, Mr. Chairman, parliamentary inquiry. The gentleman is not recognized for parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Chairman, what is...
The gentleman is not recognized. The gentleman, Mr. Burke, has the time.
we're going to ignore the rules and allow witnesses to ask the questions, then how many other rules are you just going to disregard?
Gentlemen will suspend. Parliamentary inquiries are not in order at this time.
Well, how about a point of order? This is not appropriate to have a witness be a questioner of somebody that was a witness when he was.
The gentleman will suspend.
It's just wrong.
Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman will refrain from making...
point of inquiry.
Gentlemen will...
Well, I made a point of order, and you won't rule on it.
I have not heard a point of order. If the gentleman has a stated point...
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Gentleman has a point of order. He'll state your point of order.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
There is no rule nor precedent for anybody being a witness and then getting to come up and question. And so
I have ruled
we would. The point of order is he's inappropriate to be up here asking questions.
That is not a point of order. He's here in accordance with Rule 66.
How much money do you have to give to get to do that?
The gentleman will not cast aspersions on members of staff of the committee. The gentleman,
Mr. Chairman,
it was a legitimate order.
Mr. Burke has the time.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Is Mr. Burke a member of the committee? Mr. Burke has the time.
Mr. Chairman, I have a legitimate
point of order. Mr. Burke has the time.
You have to recognize point of order.
Point of order. The gentleman will state a point of order.
This gentleman is presenting his opinions as a witness. He's supposed to present the material facts in the report, not to appear for his opinions. Is that right or not?
The gentleman, that is not a point of order. It is Mr. Burke's time pursuant to
It's
Rule 660.
inappropriate testimony from the committee.
It is. I have ruled. The gentleman has the time pursuant to Rule 660.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman will state a point of order.
Just to help you, that's not in Rule 660.
The gentleman will state a point of order if he has one.
Yes, the point of order is this. We operate by rules. If there's nothing specifically in the rule permitting this, we go by precedent. It is unprecedented for a person to come and sit, who you've described as a witness, to then return to the bench and begin questioning. That is a point of order.
The gentleman has stated. Is that a point of order? Yes. That is not a point of order, but I will point out. It's not a cognizable point of order. I will point out that the gentleman has been designated by me to do this questioning. Pursuant to Rule 660, the House Resolution 660, which is part of the rules of the House.
Why didn't you do a soliloquy then?
It is in accordance with the rules of the House, and the gentleman's time will resume. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Castro, you are aware that President Trump announced his candidacy for re-election in 2020.
Family knows the pain when a loved one is diagnosed with a serious illness. Here tonight is a special man.
And thank you for watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it and were able to pull something away from it other than, oh, here's just another pro-Trumper, because honestly, I support all of the POTUSes. Every year, year in, year out, no matter who's in for the four, I support and give 100% allegiance because they are the leader of our country at that time. They deserve respect from not only the Americans, but from the Congress, the Senate, and everyone else. They should work together and get things done for us, the American people. And with that said, I ask, can you see it? I mean, Stevie Wonder can see it. It's a political circus right now, and I'm far from amused. We have been split down the middle in this country. And over what? A man? Sure, Trump is brash. He's arrogant. And he's a bit of a pompous ass when it comes to Twitter. I admit that. But I will also admit he has done many great things for this country. He has put us back on the map worldwide. We are to be respected. We are to be reckoned with once again. Our military is strong. Our new deals that we have with countries put money back into our pockets. Jobs are up. Spending is up. I mean, who doesn't want a better America? Folks, listen, there is no difference from president to president other than maybe the way they dress, how they act, and their personal agenda. Outside of what they tried to sell the people, everyone from Bush to Bush Jr., Clinton, Obama, they all called for stronger immigration laws. They all called for better, stronger border walls. It's the same old menu. It's just that each president will present their dish with a different name and a little twist. They all do the same things. A politician is a politician, but when you enter Trump, Trump was a businessman. So he takes the country and the deals that we made and going over and meeting with foreign diplomats as a business, not as a politician. You see, his pockets don't need to be lined. Yeah, he'll say money is great and he can never have enough of it, but that's not his main motive. His motive is to try and win, like at Monopoly. He wants to win the entire board game. And how can you not respect or find some kind of like, okay, I get what he's trying to do. None of us are perfect. Everyone was talking about, oh, well, Trump grabbed him in the pussy. Well, guess what? Clinton was getting blowjobs in the Oval Office. Okay? There were guys that have testified before Senate saying that Obama had sex with male prostitutes. There's rumors that Michelle could be transgender. I mean, there's always things that are going to follow president to president. Some are true, some are false. Some are true, but they are kicked under the rug. Some are true, but you don't see the true impact of them. With every president will come dirt, scandal, or hearsay. But with this president specifically, we have seen nothing but disrespect from citizens to actresses and entertainers. I mean, let a person had held a severed head of Obama saying, this is what I want. And you see what would have happened to them. Okay? Let's see you say you want to blow the White House up, Madonna, while Bush was president. Your ass would have been thrown in lockdown for life. Okay? Let's say you have a Congress that even during the election in 2016 and before, while you're running, 2015, they're saying that you'll never be president, that you're incompetent, and if you did become president, they would oust you day one. They've been wanting to impeach and get rid of this man even before he was elected. And then once he became elected, all their energies could focus on was getting him out of here. And it's making them look crazy. And don't get me wrong, because this nonsense is on both sides. The parties are divided, the country is divided, and it's just absolute hogwash. When we have father and son, mother and daughter, brother and sister fighting or not even talking because of one man or because of one government or because of the political system, it's a shame. We need to wake up. But see, a lot of people don't want to wake up, because once you wake up, you're held accountable. You see the wizard behind the curtain. Nothing is ever what they sell it to be. There's always an agenda behind every news story, every commercial, every TV show, every movie, Everything is for a purpose. And if you think that it's not, that's where you need to wake up and start doing research. Bust out of the herd, raise your head up from the herd of sheep, and start looking around. Because guess what? I like to be informed. I don't want to have to rely on somebody telling me that, oh my God, your streets are so flooded, don't try and leave the house. And then there's two, and you're floating down the street in a canoe while you're being recorded telling us this, and then two guys walk by you in boots, and the water might be up to their ankles. That is the kind of fake media that is sold to us. They try to over-dramatize and capitalize off many numerous different events. CV-19, the coronavirus, okay? You can believe what you want to believe about this. You know, I have my research and I've done it, and it's pretty disgusting and it's devious. But once they knew and contained it in China, why did they allow travel still between Europe and America and Europe and Euro-Asia and all these other countries, allowing it to spread? And now the CDC and the WHO, the World Health Organization, are saying, as of yesterday, 2 p.m. in the United States, that this could be a mass pandemic, and we need to brace here in the U.S. because there are numerous sources popping up now that people are infected. From Omaha to San Diego, from Houston to New York, from right here in our backyard in Oklahoma. Now, when something is sold to us as a mega death killer, but yet they're allowing for travel and we're not getting the full numbers and news that we should be getting. I have people over in Europe and I have some over in Japan, and they've leaked me some info, and it's ridiculous. It's crazy that the numbers that are going on over there, but yet they're not flagged here. You know, it shows, oh, 2 cases here, 5 cases there. You take that times a couple thousand, if not more. It's like when China was on, 1/3 of their population was on martial law lockdown last week. We were none the wiser about that. 1/3, do the numbers. How many people are in China? And 1/3 were on martial law lockdown? We don't hear about that over here. It's just the way things go. But we got to remember, folks, this is our America. It's not the government's. It's not the politicians. It's ours. We the people. We have built and continue to build this country on our backs. From the poorest to the richest, it is us that build this country. If we truly want to stand free and stay the land of freedom, we better come together in unity and stop letting ridiculous bullshit, politics, parties divide us. And if you think socialized programs are the answer, let me tell you something. It was the left that implemented the first socialist programs, and that's welfare. And if you think welfare is a helping hand up, you're dead wrong. It's a boot on your neck. It's a boot on your back. It's to suppress and hold you down. You think anything is for free in this world? And when people do think that anything is for free in this world, you're sorely mistaken. Nothing comes. Everything has a price. Okay? None of this was, hey, we're going to give this to you. Have a great life. It's for them to control. And the more control they have over the people, and the more they keep us sedated, free food, free housing, free schooling, free medical, free, no, it's not free, because then we become sheep and we become slaves to the system. And one of the greatest people running right now, I used to love Bernie Sanders. But look at old Bernie. What does he use as a reference? Denmark. Go ask people in Denmark how happy they are. Yeah, they're the model that everyone shops. Socialism, Denmark. You know what two of the largest and fastest growing segments are in Denmark right now? Private medicine and private hospitalization and private schooling. Why? Because what is being offered through the socialist programs over there is A, not good enough, or B, takes too long, or not good enough. There's a reason. Go ask Cuba. Why do you think there's hundreds, if not thousands, trying to float over here on a 2x2 inch piece of wood? Because socialism's so great, isn't it? They shop us a picture of this beautiful Cuba with tropical, in these 1950 cars and these beautiful cafes with people eating on the streets. That's 10% of Cuba. Go look around the country. There's a good video floating around, and I forget the name of it, but it's something like, Cuba's not what they told us it was. Something to that effect. But you watch it, they have crumbling buildings. There's one gas station that everyone uses in the city. One. And you're backed up for miles and miles. People are running out of gas and pushing their cars on a freeway. This line is so long, it goes onto a freeway and down the freeway and off the freeway and down the freeway. That's how long it is just to get gas. And then when you go into the grocery store, everything is one name brand, one product. Milk, milk. Sugar, sugar. Hey, I know a lot of people are like, hey, well, that sounds great. But there's no freedom of choice, and you can only get what they offer. Go ask Venezuela how great socialism is. They'll let you know. One of the, if not the richest country in the world, what, 15 years ago? Now it's the poorest. Go socialism. People, wake up, do your research, study, get deep, get dirty. And if you don't want to, then don't try and argue the facts, because they're there in black and white. The internet is a crazy thing. It'll open your eyes to a lot of fake stuff and a lot of real stuff. You just got to weed it out. We can go to government sites. We can go to different university sites, and we're going to find stuff. And you got to decide what is, and put it together. And after enough research in your head, you can usually figure it out and go, okay, well, there's my answer. But we first got to remember this is our America. And we need to start holding our politicians and our corporations and our medical field people and these insurance companies. We got to start holding them responsible and accountable for these outrageous charges and payments. Insurance is the biggest scam ever. You know, you remember when Obama was in office and he said, hey, don't worry, you'll be able to keep your insurance. You don't want to change. Well, I've been an independent distributor for flowers off and on almost 12 years. And I had a pretty nice, decent Blue Cross Blue Shield deal that I paid out of pocket because I'm independent. I pay my own insurance. And I lost that soon after the Obamacare kicked in. And then I had to go shop on the insurance.gov. The closest thing to what I was getting was going to be almost triple the cost of what I was paying prior to Obamacare. So that was the Affordable Care Act, right? Come on. And I'm not the only one. I know a lot of other independent distributors and small business men and women that were affected by that and got kicked dead in the junk on it. But you don't hear our voice because people they get tired of standing up and trying, because everyone thinks no one listens. And when we get to that point where we're so angry and we think no one's listening, that's sad. That's the sad part. So all I can say is we need to stand up, guys. We need to start holding these big corporations and these big conglomerate of monster monopolized companies accountable. And until we do, nothing's going to change. Okay? We need to start having respect too. You know? So what you don't personally like the president? He's done nothing but good. So if a few bad things have happened in between, all of them do it. Look at what happened during Obama with Clinton. All the bad things that happened. Benghazi. The gun running down in Central America. What is that all just not all of a sudden buried? And those are bigger stories than anything they've had on Trump. Everything on Trump has been made up. Even the prime minister and the president of Ukraine said, look, man, listen to the phone call. We weren't pressured at all. But yet, for a goddamn month and a half, we're having to watch testimony of these people try and tell. And if you never watched it or didn't listen to the transcribed call, you would think he was best friends with this dude. Because that's what the media is selling you, and that's what Congress was selling you. And then now when they go to say, oh, well, he was acquitted, all Pelosi and them can say is, well, you can't acquit something if it didn't have a trial. Well, you didn't have a trial when you passed it through in Congress because you wouldn't allow anyone on Trump's side to call witnesses. So tit for tat. Sorry, but I'm not sorry. You know, you rushed it through and then you wanted to hold it up and let it just linger and let it linger into summer and into fall so you could use that to just keep that in people's mind. Oh, he's been impeached and I'll always stick with you. Go clean up San Francisco. How about that, Pelosi? I think you have more piles of shit on your street than the average city has regular trash. You, LA, homeless. The homeless. Have you seen the homeless? They had the Grammy Awards. And there were people trying to talk about it at the Grammys, including Chris Rock, and they were making a joke about the homeless. And if you go look on the streets, there's more tents and people living on the street. There was a doctor that came out and was talking about that, and he said it's to the point now that the feces and the urine is so bad on the streets that it's running back in to the water that's not getting clean into the LA River. And he said they're just a few years away from just devastation, disease, and yet here we are trying to bring down Trump about some bullshit foreign phone call, and you can't even take care of your own city. Do it. It's so bad, Pelosi. They've got an app that counts shit piles for San Francisco. Think I'm lying, folks. Go look it up. That's how bad, and people don't realize that. They're showing you this glamorous, the Grammys, and you're inside the building, but right outside that exact building where they're having the Grammys, there was probably 5,000 homeless people living in little tent cities underneath bridges on the side of the streets. They literally had to walk by these people to go to the event. But we don't see that. Sorry, I'm not trying to get angry, folks. We just got to, it's our America. We got to stand up for these people. And a lot of those people are people that just were one paycheck away from making that last payment, and now they're homeless with kids there on them. Or our veterans coming home from war and nobody wants to hire them. Some are immigrants illegally that are living there on the streets in these tent cities. And it's becoming an epidemic. And if you're going to fight for something and argue its points, then you need to go get your arms and hands and feet dirty in that. If you're going to say, oh, well, I back Pelosi 100%, go take a walk in her district and then see how much you want to respect and back her until she can clean up her own backyard. That's like if I was to say, hey, man, mow your grass. It's looking like shit. Get your garbage out of here. And then you come by my house and my grass is 6 foot tall and I got garbage coming out of my windows. Who am I to tell you? You know, take care of yours and then go out and parade. But America's at a crossroads, folks, and we need to come together. And we need to love one another. We really do. It's about love. If you see this today, go out and lend somebody a helping hand. If you're in a convenience store and you look behind you and somebody just has a drink in their hand, buy their drink and turn around and shake their hand and say, hey, you know what? It's great to be an American and it's great to be here in this land of the free. I just bought that coffee or that soda for you. And he's like, well, I was going to get cigarettes too. I'm like, well, I don't support that. Sorry. Just kidding. But we need to come together, show that love, give that helping hand up. Stop living by every word of the propaganda-funded media and the bullshit lies they feed us. And just take a look outside your window. Take a moment when you're at work and just stop and look around you at everybody in the rat race. Take it all in, slow down, and start to try and make a difference within a 10-foot space of your body. And from there, let it go out, grow it, expand it. But it starts with us, and we've got to start showing more compassion and love to each other daily. All this road rage, all this hate. I hold the door for somebody if they're 8 years old or 88, no matter what. And I'll have two hands full pushing bread into a Dollar General, and I'll kick open the door and hold it with my foot and usher people in while I'm holding 300 pounds worth of delivery freight, and then I'll go in. People are like, wow, we really appreciate that. Hey, you know what? No problem, because I'm hoping that the next stop somebody gets the door for me when I'm ushering in that stuff. But anyways, where I'm going is just stay aware, stay awake. And if you really want to start affecting the world, it starts right now. When you're in the store, just talk to somebody. You just talking to them could acknowledge and make them feel like, hey, people do realize I'm here and I'm alive. And you could have just stopped somebody from going home and putting a bullet in their mouth because they felt that the world was against them and no one even knew that they existed. Why live? And by you just saying hello or giving them a compliment or even holding the door and saying, have a great day, or buying that $1.29 cup of coffee or that $1.50 soda, that might just be the swing that gets that person back on track. I'm just saying, folks. With that said, be strong, be kind, and be free. God bless, stay safe, and have a wonderful night. Big Rich, The Big Rich Show.